You have a £15,000 budget on a four-door, high-performance car with four-wheel drive from the 2000s. Do you go normally aspirated V8 or flat 4 turbocharged? Germany or Japan? B7 RS4, Super Impreza WRX STI. Let's find out. Welcome to this week's Fast and Fun. What a great comparator video this is, because they're roughly the same sort of price, these cars. For the STIs, they start at probably 10 or 12,000, but a 15,000 budget will get you a really clean example. RS4s, a few £1,000 more, but you can still get yourself into an RS4 at 15,000. A tidier, nicer examples are even in the high teens though. But they come from two completely different directions. With the RS4, it's all about the normally aspirated 4.2 litre V8. Normally, in standard format, 414 brake horsepower. This one has been mapped and remapped up to 442 brake horsepower. That's a big premium over the STI. So the WRX STI Blob Eye, as standard, came with 265. This one carries the ProDrive Performance Pack, which lifts power up to 305 brake horsepower. But it's still only two-thirds of what this remapped RS4 is delivering. But what the STI has got, it's got much less weight to carry. So around about 250 kilos heavier the RS4 is. And that comes because you've got a great big V8 up front, and you've got luxuries that the STI does without. With the STI, it's in your face. The huge spoiler on the back, the bonnet scoop on the front, it shouts out loud with its gold wheels. The RS4 is all subtle flared arches, a stance that's wide and squat and low. Two completely different ways of delivering four-door high performance. And I'm absolutely intrigued to see how they both drive on the road. You've got the turbocharged on and off boost, all that mid-range torque that you'll get from a turbocharged car against the high revving top end power that normally aspirated V8 will deliver. I'm absolutely intrigued. Again, they both carry four-wheel drive. The RS4, 60-40 ratio, biased towards the rear. The STI takes its rally heritage, so it has a driver's control centre differential to adjust the power to the front or rear bias depending on what the driver wants. Now, it's incidental that 99% of drivers never touch it and they leave it up for the car to work out, but that's the rallying heritage. And when we take a look round these cars, you'll see the vast differences where they come from. But there's no right or wrong answer. These are two absolutely both compelling cars. If you want performance, you want four-door, and you want four-wheel drive, these two must be on your list for that £15,000 budget. Let's take a walk round both cars, look at the differences, and then we'll take them around some of our favourite rural roads here in the UK. The first thing you notice when you look at them is the alloy wheels. They absolutely stand out for me. Considering the STI's in-your-face styling, it only wears 17-inch alloys. The RS4, more sophisticated, subdued stealth, wears much more modern-day 19 inches. And just look at the size of those RS4 front calipers. They are absolutely massive. Even considering that the STI has 4-pot Brembos, but just overshadowed by the size of the RS4 calipers. But again, there's a lot more weight in that RS4. If we look down the back of each one, the exhaust, the STI, this one, largely unmodified, I have to say, still has the single pipe ProDrive exhaust that came as part of the ProDrive Performance Pack. This one's still got all the full badging on. Some do get debadged. The whale tail on the back, just part of what the STI is, and the oversized bonnet scoop that the STI carried. The RS4 just looks, to the uninitiated, and just an A4 saloon. But it's when you actually look down the side of the car and the pronounced, how the arches just get the wider track of the front and rear axles just looks so menacing. It looks squatty, it looks lower, it looks really hardcore. At the back, this one's got a D-Res exhaust, but largely unchanged. There, twin exhaust, both sides. And the most subtle of all spoilers, it's just the little lip on the boot, but it is there. And if I go down the side, hopefully you'll be able to see how subtle that rear lip is there on the back of the boot of the RS4. Big differences are when we step into the cars themselves. So when we look at the RS4, it's leather, it's carbon, it's trimmed what you would expect German engineering. This has got the same wheel, flat bottom steering wheel from the Gallardo. So lots of carbon in there, 6-speed manual gearbox, which is the same as the STI 6-speed. But it's a much nicer place. Look at these seats, these RS4 embossed seats there, as you can see. Wingback seats, these were optionals, extras, very desirable, I know now, in the RS4 community. But it shows and shouts premium. When we look inside the STI, the difference is stark. The carbon and leather is replaced by what we know as the typical Japanese plastics. Well, cassette player as standard in the STI, and it's just cheap, scratchy plastics. The seats, although incredibly supportive, Alcantara and cloth, just it's not a step below, it's a whole league below what you get from the RS4. And then the other mix is, let's have a look under the bonnets of both cars. So with the RS4, you've got this great big stonking 4.2 litre V8, but look at these carbon panels here. So Audi have gone to the trouble of doing this in something that you can't even see. Just, it completely fills that engine bay. And it's clean and it's tidy. And then you look at the STI and it just looks like just a mess of stuff in it. Now there's a reason for that, because it's a flat 4 horizontally opposed boxer engine. It's dropped really low into the engine, and that comes from keeping the centre of gravity low. And as a result of that, and because it's so wide, all the ancillaries that would normally be bolted to the side of the car is actually got to be on top of the car. And so it's by its very nature, everything smashed on top of the boxer engine with the top mounted intercooler. That's a quick walk round, looking at some of the differences. Size-wise, they look very, very comparable. There doesn't look like there's much in it at all. The Impreza is slightly higher, but again, that low squat stance of the RS4 looks as menacing with the in-your-face looks of the STI. But you don't buy these to the way they look, you buy these to the way they drive. And let's take these cars out on some of our favourite roads. So jumping between the STI and the RS4, there is a whole league of difference. It's just such a better cabin here inside with regard to the seats. And I have to say, I'm not a massive lover of leather sports seats, because what leather does, especially as it ages, it gets slippy and they're not great for holding you. The STI's cloth do hold you in place well, but I do love these wingback seats. Without the wing back seats, leather, I'm not sure how good they are at holding you in position. The other odd quirk, I suppose, and my only other really complaint, is the armrest, because when you take the handbrake off, your elbow's hitting this armrest, and if I put the armrest down, you sort of can't get the handbrake on. So really quite annoying type of feature, that. So I'll have that away, handbrake on, and let's go. And let's compare these two legendary four-wheel drive sports cars. So just pulling away out of that 30 zone there, just stretching the V8, that normally aspirated V8. You just carry speed. It's actually a more relaxing car to be in. You're very, very quickly at the national speed limit, whether that's 60 or 70 miles an hour. And it's effortless. It sounds really throaty, that V8. It's got the throttle is so sensitive at any sort of power, and it just builds and builds and builds as you go through that rev range. It couldn't be more different from the on or off boost, all or nothing type of STI. Much, much more compliant car, much easier car to live with. It's a really nice place to be, the RS4 though. It's comfortable, and at normal speeds it's quite subdued as well with regard to the noise and the exhaust. And this is a terrible road, but it rides it really, really well. And the inside defies that this is 15, 16 years old. The carbon, the leather, it all feels quality. And other than probably an infotainment system that looks a little bit outdated, it's great. The steering wheel, I mean, you've got a Lambo steering wheel. Who doesn't want that in the car? And as for these brilliant leather clad wingback seats, fantastic. And it's subtle. It doesn't shout what it is. There's hardly anything that tell you this is an RS4 apart from at the bottom of the steering wheel. And that's quite a nice thing to have. You don't want always to be shouty about it, because it can just become quite annoying after a time. And it's quiet when you're off the throttle, just coasting along at 40. It's refined. So second gear here, 25 miles an hour. I'll accelerate. Oh, that kick straight away. Oh, and it just gets better and better. Oh, some people say you can't beat normally aspirated. Well, I'm not 100% sure about that, but this car goes a long way to try to say that that's true. It's lovely. You just want to do it all the time, but if you do, you'll end up losing your license. That's the problem with cars like this. Feedback's not quite as sharp, I think, as the STI. It's not quite as direct. But all this about understeer, because all the weight's over the front of the car, don't worry about it. Because unless you're taking it to track and taking it above its limits, then I'm telling you, you're going to be going serious speeds and you ain't going to get an understeer. Not in this. Not unless you're driving like a loony. So don't dispel those fears completely. The brakes, they're strong, progressive. They're not too grabby though. And quite difficult, because I know my STI is in need of pads and discs, so that they're not at the best, but these are really, really good. I mean, 8-pot calipers in an RS4. Insane. And that extra weight, it may be carrying 250 kilos more, which is a lot. 3 small adults, but you don't notice it because that glorious V8 up front. It's the way it rides the road. And if you put the windows down and just blip the accelerator, you get such a raspy exhaust. No. This has got the D-res, so the resonator's been removed, but it's just that adjustability. The throttle seems like it's alive, absolutely directly linked to that engine, instantaneous. There's no turbo lag in these normally aspirated cars. Second gear as we hit the 60. And just the build up there. And although the gearbox is a little bit clunky at times, faster you go, better it gets. And just this, that's only at sort of 7/10. Oh, it's effortless speed. And really bad road, this. Oh, it just purrs along. It's got class that the STI hasn't got. Just a few compressions there, and we'll do a left here. Knock it to second gear. That's it, put slowly in the power there, build the power straight up. It's very easy to knock the STI's interior. It is cheap looking, it's scratchy plastics, it's poor quality. It's even got a cassette player, which, well, just shows you the period that it's come from. And so you can knock that, you can knock it for that. But the truth be told, Subaru put the money into the important bits, making this as fast a car as possible from point A to point B. And you have to applaud Subaru for doing that. What they did do right, though, is on the instrument panel, that centre rev counter, foremost. It's the biggest dial, right in the middle, akin to Porsche, and I like that. One thing you must remember is in this period, in the mid-2000s, the STI with the PPP delivering 305 horsepower and the RS4 delivering 414, they were serious numbers. And put into perspective, the 911 Carrera S, so not the standard Carrera, the Carrera S at the time, with its 3.8 litre flat 6, delivered 355 horsepower. That was the ultimate flagship, the 911 Carrera S. They're impressive numbers. As you turn here, give it a little prod. And that's it with the STI. The noise, there's a sense of occasion even when you're going at, well, I'm now at 45 miles an hour. There's a sense that, wow, the noise, the intensity, the road noise, the induction noise, it's all there. Makes it entertaining. The noise of these two cars as well is very different. The RS4 is very quiet, reserved, and it's not until you hit the loud pedal do you start to hear that audible, ever-rising revs of the V8. And it makes a sweet sounding note. But it's not over the top. It's only when you stand outside and hear the RS4 go past do you hear that really crisp, loud exhaust note. The Subaru comes from a different angle. The STI's, with its road noise as a sort of a standard mundane, you just got to accept it. But where the RS4's all the exhaust, the STI's all induction. It's not about the exhaust. You can hear the exhaust burbling, but when you're on it, when you're revving it, when you're accelerating hard, all you can hear is induction noise, scooping in as much of that cold, damp air as possible. There's a couple of a right and left sweeper up here, up this hill. So third gear, 30 miles an hour in third gear. It's pulling 2.6, and now just build. So you get now, so it comes on boost about 3,500, and then there's a big wall of exhaust now into fourth, hard acceleration, then onto the brakes now, into third. Brakes are poor right there, all feedback through that. The way it pulls through the speed, the traction it finds is, you're very quickly into high speeds. It's just a wall of induction noise, and it's just surging on that big wallop of mid-range torque. The one weakness that's really been apparent back-to-back drives between this and the RS4 is the STI brakes. They're just, I mean, these pads and discs aren't in great shape, but they're nowhere near as efficient as the RS4s. The RS4s are sweet. They really are. They pull you down, they give you confidence, and these are, they just don't give you the same level of performance as the RS4s. I'm not sure if you can pick up that noise from the flat 4 boxer engine, but that acceleration, the whole sense, it's compelling, it's addictive, the way it just pulls and accelerates, and it's very much on boost, off boost. You've got to drive it in that mid-range where the biggest bang for buck is, in that sweet spot. Whereas the RS4, you've got more of the revs, more of the time, and revving it out. It's not worth revving the STI out. By 7,000 in the Type UKs, it's done really. The STI is really old school. It feels old tech. You wouldn't believe that this is a very late 2005. And the RS4 came out in 2006, so only a few months later. But yet, although they didn't quite overlap, they're within a year or two of each other. And yeah, it feels almost like 10 years. And that's not just in the way they look, but it's the way they drive. The STI is definitely more old school. It's more raw. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it just makes it a very, very different experience. Just feel that acceleration there. The gearbox is an absolute delight. The STIs, that 6-speed, it's a little bit, you've got to be a little bit mechanical feeling, but it feels good, it really does. Just every gear change is a delight. It's not smooth, again, it's a little bit notchy, but it's very mechanical feeling, just like the steering. I mean, the STI steering isn't absolutely world class, but it gives you a lot more than the RS4 does. Just the way it just corners, and the speed it can carry through corners, it just eggs you to drive it harder and harder. So how do I summarise my time with these two iconic legends of cars? In fact, they really are modern classics. That name was made for cars like the RS4 and the STI. Whether they are now or will be is almost immaterial. They are both brilliant, brilliant cars, built in an analogue age where you as a driver was part of the reason for the car going so quickly. They were hugely capable, but the driver was in control with the gear stick, with the chassis, with the braking, the steering, all the sensations that you feel. And both cars are just brilliant. And although the modern age of digital hot hatches or super hatches like RS3s, Golf Rs, A45s, they'll be just as quick, if not quicker. The worry, I suppose, is that the digital generation just don't offer the same level of driver involvement as these cars. These mid-2000s for me, this was the peak of sports cars, sports saloons, ultimate weapons on B roads. And I've tried to think the best way to describe what these two cars, and the best analogy I can come up with is the RS4 is like taking your wife or your girlfriend for a romantic meal for two. Fine dining, champagne, dessert. Whereas the STI, well, the STI is more you with your mates going down the town and drinking as much beer as possible and grabbing a kebab on the way back. They're both great nights, but it really depends on what mood you're in. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please thumbs up, subscribe below, and stay tuned. Another video next week. Thanks for watching, guys.